Hi, I'm Dave Kelly, and I'm an Adobe Certified Instructor for Adobe Photoshop Lightroom 5. And one of the complaints that I hear all the time is that the import dialog box in Lightroom is very confusing, that pictures don't end up where you think they should, or they end up in a subfolder underneath another subfolder or folder, or you can't find them at all. So today I've got another neat Lightroom trick for you that will not only guarantee that your images end up exactly where you thought they would, but it will make it very easy for you to import the images into Lightroom. So let's get started making importing into Lightroom easy.
Lightroom keeps track of your images in the Folders panel, which is listed over here on the left side of the screen. And any place you have images that have been imported into Lightroom on your computer will be listed here on either the computer's hard drive or any one of the external hard drives that you have connected to the computer. And for that reason, some thought should be given to the structure you want for your Folders panel. I think it should be as simple as possible. And for that reason, each one of my main folders is a year, and each photo shoot underneath the year is a subfolder. This does two things. One, it makes it easier for me to find my images, and two, it also makes it easy for me to place the images exactly where I want them when I import them into Lightroom. Before you put your memory card in a card reader or hook up your camera to your computer to import your images, there are a couple of things you should do. Depending on whether you have just one card or multiple cards to import, the first thing you should look at is coming down here to the sort order in the toolbar. And if you have multiple cards, select Order Added. That will make it easier for Lightroom and faster to import it, because Lightroom will then not have to search and figure out which picture belongs in front of which picture. After you have all the pictures on all the cards imported, you can then switch to capture time, and your first picture will be first and your last picture will be last. The second thing that you want to do before you start trying to import your card by hooking it up to the card reader is to set the destination. And this is really the key to getting the images where you want them. And the way you would set the destination is to create a subfolder over here in the Folders panel first. There are two ways you can do that. One, make sure that your folder is highlighted and then click the plus sign here and say Add a Subfolder. The other way to do it is to hold down the Control key on the Mac or right click with the PC on the folder, and from the menu that appears, choose Create a Subfolder inside of the folder. The dialog box will appear on the screen asking you to name the new folder and create it, and as you can see, it already has a check mark and placed inside 2014. So we'll name this Bears, and then we will create it. And if you notice over here in the subfolders is a new folder entitled Bears, but it's grayed out because there are no images in the folder yet. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that we're going to import into our new folder. And the easiest way to do that is to hold down the Control key on the Mac or right click on the new folder that's grayed out on the PC, and from the menu that appears, choose Import to this folder. When you do that, the Import dialog box is going to open up on screen. However, when we look in the Source panel over here on the left side of the screen, the source of our images to be imported isn't listed yet. So now we're ready to put our memory card in the card reader, and it may take a couple of minutes, but eventually you'll see that the Nikon D3, which is the memory card on which the images are, is listed. So we just have to navigate to the folder on which the images are, and they'll appear in the center of the screen ready to be imported. So in this case, I'm going to uncheck all, and we'll only import, say, 3 of these images. I'll just select the 3 and then check the mark. But before we do that, what we want to do is go over to the destination panel and make sure that our new folder Bears is highlighted. Then we know that the images are going to go into that folder. If we go up here to the top of the destination panel, and this is one of the important things, and this is where our catalog and our folder structure can get messed up. There is a box here for importing them into a subfolder. If you check that box, you will get a subfolder underneath the subfolder entitled Bears. You can see that the folder is 2014 and Bears is our subfolder. Also, you want to make sure that under Organize it says into one folder. By default, it's going to say by date, and you definitely don't want to do that. If you choose by date, then you will get a subfolder underneath Bears entitled 2014, and each date that you photograph these bears will have their own subfolder under the subfolder entitled 2014. So it's going to be much slicker if we just have it into one folder. Once we know that we're going to have our images imported into the bears subfolder, then we can go up to the top. Your only choice when you're using a memory card is to copy to a new destination and add to the catalog. You could also copy as a DNG if you like to work with Adobe's proprietary file. I usually don't. I just copy and add to the new catalog. But under File Handling, your first choice is how to build your previews. By default, it says minimal. These are images that come in as JPEG thumbnails. After they've been brought into Lightroom, if you then choose one of the pictures and bring it up into the loop view in the library module or into the develop module, it has to be loaded as a raw file, and that will take a few minutes. However, if you choose standard instead of minimal, Lightroom will make the standard previews on import, and even though that takes a little bit longer, you then won't have to wait for the picture to load when you want to start working on it in the develop module. Or if you're going to use the Lightroom mobile on your iPad, go ahead and build the smart previews, because that's what you use on the iPad. Also, if you're working on a desktop, it's a good idea to build the smart previews, especially if you're importing your images to an external hard drive connected to the laptop. That will allow you to work on the images even when the external hard drive is not connected to the laptop. This next thing down, don't import suspected duplicates, is very handy if you've only shot half of the card one day and imported them. The next day you shoot the other half of the card and you come back and want to import the other half of the card. If you click that, any images that have already been imported into Lightroom will be grayed out and they won't be imported. If you're working in the field, make a second copy to is a good idea. It just gives you an opportunity to have two copies when you come home, especially if you're going to transfer them from your laptop to the desktop. As far as file renaming is concerned, if you have only one card, go ahead and rename the files. Hopefully you watched the video on setting up Lightroom and you created your own file naming template, or you already had your file naming template created. However, if you have more than one card, don't rename your files. You'll have an opportunity to rename them afterwards after you've organized them. And the next panel down is applied during import. If you created a metadata preset with your copyright and contact information in it, this is where you will find it. Here under the metadata, you can see I've already created one that says DEK, and that means that my copyright and contact information is going to be embedded in the images as they're imported. The next section of the panel down is the keyword panel, and this is an important thing. I think you should put one keyword on your images on import, and it should be either the place where the images were shot, for example the Grand Canyon or something like that, or whatever the subject of the images were. So if we type in bears, that keyword will be embedded in the images as they're being imported. And then once again, you already know that your destination is right. Now at this point, you could go ahead and click the import button and the images will be imported into Lightroom. However, if you have multiple cards to import, then you don't have to go through this every time you put in a new card. You can go down here to the very bottom of this black blank here, which says Import Preset. And all you have to do is click on the double pointed disclosure arrow and come down here where it says Save Current Settings as a new preset. If you click on that, you just name it. We'll name this one Bears for obvious reasons and create it. Now you have a preset entitled Bears. So the next time you put a card in from this photo shoot, all you have to do is make sure that the import preset Bears is selected. And if you do that, you can even, unless you want to see the images as they're imported, you can click on this up pointing disclosure arrow here, and you will get this smaller import dialog box that tells you what the source are. You're going to copy them, where they're going to go to the 2014 folder. They're going to go into one folder, and you're going to have the DEK preset and the keywords bears on them. Once you click import, I'm going to go back up so you can see this. Once you've clicked the import button, the pictures will then be imported into Lightroom, and they'll end up in the folder titled Bears. And you can see that 2 have already come in, and the 3rd one is about to come in. So that's the easy way to get your images into Lightroom and make sure that they get put into Lightroom where you want them. Now what you want to do down here is select all, and that would be Command A or Control A on the PC, and with them all of them selected, you then can select capture time, and with them all selected, you can go up to the library module and you can say rename photos. And if you have your DEK file name here, then you select that, and then you just have to put in the custom text that's required, and you can start it with number 1. And once you do that and press OK, all of the images will be renamed and reordered in the order that they were shot. The first image you shot will be the first one. The last image you shot will be the last one. So that's the easy way and the sure way to get your images into Lightroom exactly where you want them. By the way, all this information on importing is available in Lightroom 5 Made Easy. The book is available through a link to the publisher on my website or from Amazon.com. This is also the type of practical information that we'll be presenting in the Shoot the Light post-production processing workshop, which is going to take place January 10th and 11th, 2015 in Orlando, Florida. So join Chaz Glatzer and myself for a workshop that will not only take your post-production processing to the next level, it will take it far beyond that. You can sign up at shootthelight.com, or you can shoot an email to info@shootthelight.com to sign up.